Support the Amigos podcast and keep the Amiga goodness flowing for just $1 a month. Visit our page at patreon.com/AmigosPodcast.
Amiga, the first personal computer that gives you a creative edge.
Amigos, the podcast about everything Amiga. Amigos is a proud member of the Throwback Network, your home for quality retro podcasts. And now, here are your hosts, Aaron Dowdy and John Bodovkar Schaller.
Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today we're going to talk about theme park.
Ooh.
But before we get into theme park, Aaron, we have quite a bit of feedback from last week's show.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
So,
that's not necessarily a bad thing. But...
well, most of it was positive, thank goodness.
Oh, okay.
And the first bit of feedback comes from Amigo Chris Folds. And he says, last week during the pre-show, I talked about how I was embarking on a challenge. And he's going to do it too. So I know we didn't talk about this on the show, but I figured I'd share it with everybody in the wider show audience, just in case anybody wanted to take part. So Chris writes, after listening to the post show, it got me thinking. Me and my wife between us have over 70 unread books, 100 plus unread magazines, and literally hundreds of unplayed computer games, including many so-called classics. And with my Switch coming, it adds a pile of other masterpieces, apparently. So we are going to attempt the 2018 Boat Challenge. From January 1st, we are going to attempt not to buy a single book, magazine, or computer game, and we are canceling all but one magazine subscription each. He's keeping Retro Gamer, she's keeping BBC Good Food. It's about time we sat back and enjoyed what we own rather than adding to the pile. I have discovered I have 2 games still in shrink wrap for my PS4 that I got for Christmas last year. That is just shameful. So for those of you that are not Patreon supporters that didn't get to listen to the post show last week, I was looking around just in general, doing an assessment of my life, and I realized I just have so many magazines, books, and video games that I have never even played that are just in piles everywhere, like behind us. 99% of these games on the shelf behind us, I have not put in a system one time.
Really?
Yeah.
You never played some of these?
I've never played some of these. This row of 7,800 games, never played them. So
that is shameful,
yeah,
Boat. He's right about that.
So what has now been coined by Chris Folds, the Boat Challenge. I am not going to buy any new or used video games, books, or magazines. I'm going to spend a year just using and enjoying what I have. So if anybody else wants to sign up and take the Boat Challenge, let me know. We can get this thing going and make a movement out of this thing. Enjoy what you've got. And if you don't have that much, well then don't take the Boat Challenge. Keep buying more.
I'm not going to participate in the Boat Challenge. I'm going to participate in the stuff that you don't pick up. I'm going to run over and get it real quick.
All right, that sounds good.
Song.
It'll be a
the cheap guy challenge.
That's right. We also got feedback from let's see, Matthew Perron.
Ooh.
All right.
Very good.
He says, hey guys, great podcast. I love it. Just discovered this a couple weeks ago, and now I'm going through all the back catalog of podcasts you guys did. You think I should do this in my Canadian-French accent?
Is he French-Canadian
Yes.
guy? I think you probably shouldn't. We don't want to make them mad.
Let me introduce myself a little. My name is Matthew Perron. First name pronounced Matthew. I'm French-Canadian. I live in... I'm not even gonna...
Give it a shot, dude.
Chicoutimi, Quebec, Canada, and I'm 38 years old. I grew up with the following systems. Coleco Gemini.
Whoa.
You heard of the Coleco Gemini?
No.
Me neither. I have no idea what that is.
Coleco Gemini.
Unless that was...
I thought the Gemini was was in television's gimmick.
I don't know.
I don't know either. I have to look into that one.
So Matthew, let us know what the Coleco Gemini is. Then he had a C64, an Amiga 500 with the RAM expansion. And then later on got a PS1 and a PC, etc. He says, I have the most love for the C64 and Amiga. He still has his original C64 plus an extra one and his Amiga tank mouse, although his monitor died a long time ago. And he writes, strangely, I had a couple of cousins with Amigas, and we managed to get a good amount of games and a whole lot of fun and memories. He says, I'm now a proud supporter of the Amigos podcast, thank you. And I'd like you to please use my real name on the Patreon supporter list, no problem. He says, thank you so much for great entertainment, and I wish Santa brings you a bunch of new Patreon supporters this Christmas. Long live the Amigos from Matthew Perron.
Wow, that was nice. That's
Yeah.
that's a nice little email.
So thank
It's funny.
Matthew.
Canada had a lot more Amiga support than the States. They also got the CD32 that we didn't get.
Everybody had more Amiga support than the States, almost.
Yeah, you're right. By the way, I've been sick all week, so if I will try my best not to cough in the mic or generally sound snotty. I'm doing my best, but
That's all right. That's
Yeah.
all right. We're just glad you're here.
thank you, Boat.
Next up is Paul Kitching. This is the Paul Kitching that is the game savant, not
Is he the Paul
graphics
Kitchen that
master.
stomped everyone's hiney in
He
the
is.
Amigo Challenge #4?
He is. He sent us a PayPal donation. He says, "Hi, John. Just a small thank you for you both doing the show. I've been along for the ride since episode 1, and it's been fun to watch and take part in some live chats and game challenges." So, yeah. And then we had
Paul is the man. If you watched his efforts on Turrican, I don't know if you watched his video submission. It literally took up a third of the whole video.
yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
his is like,
He just
that's one of the
kept
reasons I
going
couldn't
and
do it.
going and
I couldn't
going.
do it all to one screen because it was unbelievable. In fact, the last 3 guys took up the majority of that whole video. They were all incredible players.
And Matthew actually, he had one more comment that he wrote in. He says, it's about the. He says we simply must play Mortville Manor.
Which we talked about last
Right.
week. This is the game that allegedly had the in-game speech, right?
Right. And he said that it was one of the games that fascinated him as a child. It's unbelievably hard without the internet. Though with the internet, you can beat it in less than 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And he said that there's a sequel called Manupti Island that you must check out. So thanks for that. And that concludes this week's mailbag.
We
Now-
may have to look into that.
yeah.
It's intriguing to
It
me.
is.
And also, I've not heard of it. So it's like I said last week's the first time I've ever heard of it. So.
Right, so we'll have to check it out. So Aaron, as you can see, we have a plethora of Thanksgiving goodness.
It's lovely, bro.
Here in Amiga
You set the
Studios
table.
this
Where's the
week.
turkey, bro?
Oh, the turkey. It's a little early for turkey. You know, I figured if we were recording our normal time, then I'd have the big spread.
Oh,
but
I
figured
see.
it's hard. It would be hard to eat that early in the morning.
Oh, no, it's not. It's quite easy, actually.
So how was your Thanksgiving?
It was quite nice. We had nice. I mean, I was sick, but that much said, I soldiered on, and we had the family around, and it was an embarrassment of riches. To be honest, my mom put together a really nice meal with my dad, and had just a slew of people over, and it was great. We had a real good time.
So for those of you that aren't aware of what Thanksgiving is, or maybe know the name just from TV or whatever, Thanksgiving is sort of the biggest. I'd say it's the biggest family holiday of the year.
Yes.
It's when families come together and eat a lot of food and just enjoy being around each other. And football is a big part of it for American families too. A lot of them.
It wasn't a big part of it in my house.
Yeah.
My mom's. I watched about 5 minutes of the Cowboy game. And that's pretty much all I watched. I'm serious. That's all.
That killed your desire to watch it.
You know, it's just a lot. We were just chatting and there's a lot of, it's good. Hey, it's good to get together with your. It's almost
Yeah.
like a little mini family reunion.
It is.
Every
it is.
year.
That's exactly what it is. So, what's your favorite Thanksgiving food?
I like cranberry sauce, and it has to be the generic canned kind.
The kind of it's
When
like
you
a
top when you
Jell-O.
pop it out, it just has it still looks like the can.
Yep.
And my mom buys some every year, and no one eats it but me every year.
Well, that's
and then
okay.
I get to take what's left home.
Yeah.
So I have
That's a winner right
so
there.
so I would say that I like the desserts, pumpkin pie with a crap load of. Chad brought over pumpkin pie, and he brought over one of those whipped cream, the things where it's all in the can, you shake it and you shoot it out, right? My kid had never seen that before.
Oh.
So I told him to come over here, and I shot some of that in his mouth, and he loved it. And so he was walking around. He thought that was the best.
It is
he
the
could,
best.
He could not
He is
believe
not
that,
wrong.
So, but yeah, I like the desserts. I know it's stunning, but I really like it all. It's stunning again, but I would say the cranberry sauce would be my favorite thing.
For me, I could eat just a big plate of stuffing. I
Yeah.
love stuffing. It doesn't matter if it's stovetop or if it's homemade. I slightly prefer the stovetop, I think, just because I know what I'm getting into. But there's just something about bread and salt and grease. So it's all the best things in the world.
Did you guys have a proper turkey that was stuffed?
Yeah, yeah.
We had, Mom gets a sliced turkey every year, right? and I think I prefer it. Yeah, I think I do.
There is something to be said for the ease of eating. It is a lot easier.
That's right. Yeah, and prepping, I guess, would be easier too.
Sure.
I will say, not to get mushy, but it's a one time of the year. Really, you think about the less fortunate folks. I mean, none of us are wealthy, but we do pretty good.
We do pretty well,
and we. As much complaining and moaning as I do throughout the year about money, it was nice. I felt very fortunate, and also very fortunate to have my family around.
There's a lot to be
nice.
said for living close enough to your family that you can see them on Thanksgiving.
Well, yeah, and I'll tell you, as I get older, you care more about that stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't give a crap back in the day. It's just like, I'll go home for Thanksgiving. I'll come back. But now it means a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Amiga or the Thanksgiving miracle occurred. Amiga-related Thanksgiving miracle occurred when I was there. So I was talking to he's not really my uncle. It's my aunt's boyfriend, but they've been together so long, I just think about him as my uncle. And he says. We were talking about the podcast, and I was like, yeah, I do this podcast, and he's like, oh, well, what's it about? And I was like, it's about this old computer. And he's like, oh, really? And I'm thinking in my mind, here we go. I'm going to say it's about the Amiga. His face is going to go blank, and then he'll change the subject.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens whenever you mention that you have an Amiga podcast to anybody around here. So I said, yeah, it's about this old computer called the Amiga. He's like, oh, I got one of those in my basement. What? He's like, yeah, I'll dig it out for you.
Oh.
He's like, I got all kinds of software. So
no kidding.
Yeah, I guess he bought it from one of his friends at work back in the day, and it's been in his basement in a box forever.
He's going to give it to you?
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Bro. We just don't know what that is.
Right.
That's very exciting.
It is very exciting. So.
And a bunch of software.
Yeah.
Hey, that might be pretty cool, man.
Now, I don't know if he's going to give it to me. I don't want to presume, but if he lets me borrow it for a while, I'll be
that would be sweet,
happy.
eh?
Yeah.
It could be like a 1,000 or something.
Right.
It could be a 4,000.
You never know. You never know what it could be.
There's something better than that.
Yeah.
Again, I was gifted my 1200, the first one I had, and it just came out of the blue. It was the same sort of thing where it's just like, listen, I've had this sitting around. I knew you would enjoy it if you want to come. I was like, wow, this is so nice. People are super nice about that stuff. It's cool. I guess you sort of have to pass it along, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I try to be pretty generous with my stuff too whenever I can. Especially with the little tight knit community of Amiga owners. And or just old computer enthusiasts in general. There's not a ton of us still rolling around.
And they by and large, they're a generous bunch. I found people that have old. I found that people, especially people that are no longer into the scene, a lot of times they're glad that somebody's going to be using it and appreciating it.
I will say, we was talking about Thanksgiving. One thing I'm thankful for is, and this is again, I'm going to mush it up.
You can mush it up all you want,
but. It's funny when we put this show together, when we just, whatever, our little thing here, and I didn't think much about it. I was like, hey, no one's really talking about the Amiga, let's do it. And you're like, yeah, let's do it. And we did it. But you really don't think about how super nice and cool that community is. The Amiga people have always been super nice to us, and often we'll go out there and stink it up, and they're nice to us. They've been very forgiving. They've been incredibly generous, and I don't know if every community I've been a part of like the old pinball community, the arcade owners. They're all pretty okay. There's a little bit of jokes, but the Amiga people are the nice, are super duper nice.
To me, the arcade scene is very hit or miss. There's some people that are super, super cool and super friendly, and then you have other people that are very territorial.
Yeah,
you don't get that really, at least as far as is my experience with the Amiga crowd. They're all super, super
Well, when
awesome.
it comes to arcade and pinball collecting, everyone's angling, man, because
there's a limited supply.
There's a limited supply. The prices are through the roof. And so you're talking about thousands of dollars, and so people are trying to beat each other to the punch or rip people off. It's just the way it is. It's innate. I'm not bad-mouthing it. I'm in there
It's
too.
the nature of the game.
But Amiga people, man, are cool. We've had, people have been super nice to us, sent us all kinds of free software or hardware, and gave us tips and stuff. I mean, it's been. I don't think I've got a bad thing to say. And even when I see, like, I'll get on the Facebook community or whatever, I'll see them fighting or the English Amiga message board. people are almost always cool. I mean, even when people are asking to get smashed,
Right.
they're pretty cool about stuff, you know. And so that's something. I think that's nice. And so if everyone was like the Amiga people, we'd be okay.
Yeah.
Fortunately, why did Amiga fail? There'd been world peace.
Well, you know, it's sort of that same thing. Who was it? I think it was Studebaker, one of the early car manufacturers. They never had labor disputes or anything like that, but that was why they went out of business, was because they just, you know, they were too nice, they were too friendly, and it doesn't take you far in the world of business, unfortunately.
Quick fact, my dad owned a Studebaker.
Really?
It was a piece of crap that sat in our backyard for years rusting away.
Oh, was it? Did he buy it as a project to fix up?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he bought it as a project to fix up, and he didn't get around to it. They worked a lot. So, yeah, we used to have a Studebaker. I used to play in it on occasion, but I think it would get snake-filled after a while.
I remember I had a buddy that lived out that his dad had an old truck that he was fixing up, and I remember we went into it one time. And I beeped the horn, and there was a hornet nest inside, and they all came out, and we went running. And it was good times growing up in the countryside.
This is completely off the subject, but I'm going to bring this up.
Okay.
I had a friend that was telling me that they have a buddy who has one of these hunting cabins out in the woods, right? And he goes out every once in a while to check on it, right? So he was out, and it's in Kanawha Forest, which is it's basically sort of part of Charleston, right? Mm-hmm. He was out there the other day to check on it, and he got accosted by a black bear.
Oh, my gosh.
He had to shoot this bear.
Wow.
And it was about a 350-pound bear, so not a huge one, but it was, all...
a bear's a bear. You don't want to run up against one.
If you think about that, though, I mean, this guy got accosted, a guy attacked by a bear.
I mean...
Those bears will cut you with those claws. They'll kill you.
We live in a rural place.
I know. But he showed pictures of this bear. Don't mess with a bear.
Yeah,
you know?
I think that there's actually, obviously, if a bear's attacking you, you're allowed to shoot it. But I think that there's actually a bear hunting season in the state.
Yeah, I think you're right. I know they hunt bear, but we got a lot of bears, you know. But
they're not friendly. They're not like Yogi.
No.
They'll rip your lungs out.
They'll take your picnic basket and then they'll eat you.
Yeah.
They'll rip your lungs out. They will.
I'd like to meet his tailor.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to some Amiga news.
News.
The first news of the week is something that Chris Folds posted up.
What's his name?
Chris Folds.
That's right.
He went to an event over in England where he lives. It's actually in his town, which is either Leicester or Leicester. I'm not sure the exact pronunciation of this place.
I bet somebody in the chat knows.
I'm sure somebody, Duncan Styles or somebody in the chat will let us know what the correct pronunciation is. But anyway, he went over to the Retro Computing Museum, which is in his backyard, and he took these fabulous pictures.
Yeah, some of these I want to really talk about because I was like, oh boy.
So we got what do you think that thing is?
That is I think that's one of the VR setups, I think.
Okay.
You know, the old school Amiga VR thing, I think. But again, I don't hold me to that.
Yeah. It looks awesome, whatever it is. Man. Yeah, virtual reality.
That is simulating my back room is what that's doing.
Big pile of
See that
junk.
monitor right there? I think that's one of those broadcast quality monitors right there.
Yep.
Ooh, those aren't easy to get.
No, people love those.
There's a main cabinet. Machine. It's a Killer Instinct machine playing Street Fighter. Mm-hmm. There's that's a great game, by the way. Now you know that's a jacked up Xbox because they've changed the color ring on the front, which you can do that. That's just a ton of software.
Yeah. Man.
Now I think was this held in the computer museum?
Yeah.
Okay, that's right. Look at all that. Look at all those goodies.
Yeah. So
I bet those guys have stuff they could put out for until the end of time.
They probably just rotate stuff in and out.
And then we're looking at what do you figure that is, Boat?
Boy, that looks like maybe that's a BBC Micro clone.
It's got a row of orange keys along the top. And it's got two disk drives in a separate device.
Yeah. Well, I have no idea what that thing is. It looks cool though. I like the font on that.
You know, when you got two 5.25-inch floppies, you're open for business.
That's right. Of course, you got your NES,
Nintendo,
and your,
hooked up to a looks like a Commodore monitor.
The same monitor I've got.
Is that joystick? I mean, that gun in the picture is a light gun. I've got that one. I got one of those. I've got that too.
Yeah.
That's my Pikachu Pokemon N64. Now that I don't have. That's an original
Master System.
the cool looking kind, which
Yeah.
I'd like to have because mine's not cool looking at all. There's more look at all those cartridges they've got at the.
They've just
We're
got
just looking
stuff
through
for days
pictures
and
of the
days.
thing.
Look at
Now
that
this is a Amiga external CD-ROM. It's white. It looks what it looks like they did was, man, I've never seen that before. And it was
says
very
CD12
intriguing.
It says CD1200. Do you think that is like a CD32, a CD32 with a 1200 on the inside?
Well, a CD32 basically has a 1200 on the inside.
Oh, does it? Okay.
That's an external drive, isn't
Okay.
it? I
So
don't
it's
know
like
if that's a
side-
whole computer. Or,
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell. It's white. For people listening on the podcast, it's a white. It's basically got the lid of a CD32, but it's white. It says Amiga. It's got two. That must be. I don't know what the hell that is.
Yeah.
We'll have to look into that.
But,
Bo. That looks
and
awesome.
Duncan says it's Lester. That's how you pronounce the name of that.
Okay. That's a sharp looking CD-ROM though, or whatever that
Yeah.
is. Or I mean, it must be a full computer. That's now we're looking at a PC engine with the CD or the CD-ROM drive attached to it. Which have you ever seen one of those in person?
In Japan.
Really?
Yeah, they have them. You can buy them all day in Japan.
Man, I wish we could send you back to Japan,
I know,
buddy.
man. I'd go to town if I had the money I have now.
We're looking at. Is this a Famicom clone?
Yeah.
Bo?
Well, this might be the Famicom. Boy, I don't know. It's hard to tell. I think
Those look like Famicom cards.
Yeah, it's definitely a Famicom because the controllers are hardwired into the system. It might be a clone or it might be a duo. Night moves.
That's a cocktail
Right.
pinball machine.
You've had lots of experience with the
I've
cocktail pinball
owned
machine.
one and played several, but I've not played that. I've almost bought that a couple times, but it was cheap.
Yeah.
That's one of the cheaper pinball machines that.
That's a another virtual reality.
I don't know. That's
flight sim
it's
thing.
a crazy thing. Where these pictures are crazy. That
Yeah.
I don't know what that is either. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah. So, and let me go ahead and cue this thing up real quick too. This is a video from an Amigos fan
And a good friend.
and a good friend.
I love your Amigos podcast. I donate every week, and it's fantastic to have a regular kind of news update from the Amiga world and the American perspective, which we never really get over here. So we're in the Retro Computer Museum Leicester, and we're doing an event with David Pleasant. So really good fun.
That was Ravi.
Yeah. So thank you, Ravi.
From the Retro Hour.
I wish that we could have been there with you. David Pleasant's friend of the show was there too, and
He was a real nice guy, wasn't he?
He was.
He was. That was a very nerve-wracking.
we need to have some sort of a crossover with Ravi and the Retro Hour guys. We need to do a big
Are you
group
kidding
show.
me?
Yeah. Of course, we're vastly outclassed.
Oh,
by
yeah,
them.
no
They're
kidding.
magnificent,
My
but,
gosh.
Maybe they could stoop to our level. for
Oh
one
my
episode.
gosh! Are you kidding me? That was nice of Ravi.
Yeah. Thank you, Ravi. We appreciate it.
But yeah, and Chris Folds, you came through again, dude. And I know he had to leave that event early. He said so. I can't remember what. I think his wife got ill or something. So he went above and beyond to capture some footage and some pictures for us. So we appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'd heard about this event earlier, and I was like, man, I'm dying here because everybody was talking about it. It looks like it came through because that looks awesome.
So what other Amiga news has been going on this week, Aaron?
Well, Chris Folds had a hand in a lot of this, so he's been going out of his mind. He's an Amiga maniac, if I may say. First up from said Chris Folds, new shooter made in Suck. One of my favorite things here. It's called R Squadron. So it looks pretty good. Suck is a pretty capable program, right? I mean, have you messed around with it much?
We've talked about it, but I've never played with it.
Yeah, it's basically a do-it-yourself. I have not played this yet, but you can download it right now, and it looks pretty colorful and neat. So there you go. There's been a couple releases this week. That we'll get into the next one here in a bit. Let me see here. Next on the docket, and I think Folds put this up as well. Project X Special Edition 2.0. So it's an official update to Project X Special Edition. If you see, gosh, we never covered Project X, did we? back in. That's not been one of our shows. I know. I don't think we did Project X. Did we,
No,
Bo?
but it's weird because it's a Team 17 game, so you
Sure,
think that we
yeah.
would have done it by now.
Gosh, that is crazy. It's funny what slips through the cracks. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's sad that I had to sit here and think for a while to figure out what it was, you know. But anyway, but this looks really good.
Yeah,
eh?
yeah.
Now Project X I've played, and it's a real fun game.
You know what I like about this is that it's got that sort of that same R-type perspective, but you have the corridor is a lot wider, and it feels
least
a
this
lot more
level.
open. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Who
and
knows what's coming in the future?
You know, if you look at when we're looking at video of this right now, for those of you listening, if you look at the way it's drawn, it has that hand drawn sort of. I don't know. It's a very luscious looking.
Yeah, it really looks
you know,
good.
and which I like. You know, and yeah, that looks. We may have to give that a whirl,
Yeah.
dude. That looks pretty awesome. So again, another Chris Folds. He's been a machine. This came out. A lot of the stuff we're getting off indie retro news, which is the bomb. As we've mentioned many times, a game called LR City.
Nope.
It's a. I think this one is coming. It's a camp. This is a pre-order for it, and always good. You know,
Trying to find
both
that here.
trying to find. There it
There
is.
it is. Okay.
It looks. I don't know if hit the video there, but let's see what this looks like. 'Cause I didn't have a chance to look at this one. I think it's sort of a RPG style game here. Oh no, I don't know what that. Oh wow, that is weird looking.
Yeah.
It looks like you're like a little flame.
Loads of shiny stuff to collect.
It's not a role playing game. From the pictures, I thought it was like
It
one
does.
of those.
It looks like Zelda, but it's more of an action.
You play like a little blob that can shoot different types of stuff at people.
Yeah, that looks.
Man, this
really
looks pretty good too.
interesting.
It's got
Yeah.
a store in it. So this is coming out. Does it say who actually is putting this out, Bo? Can you see that on there somewhere?
Looks like Pixel Glass.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So hey, and I think they're taking pre-orders right now. So if you want to check this out, we've got it linked up in Google Plus. So if you want to have a look at the link, this will get you going. But hey, man, that looks pretty quality,
Yeah,
Bo.
yeah, it
I have to
really
say.
looks good.
And I haven't been super impressed with some of the homebrew stuff we've seen, but man, that looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's something that I did read through, and wow, this was quite an event. This is our own Dreamcatcher, the man, the myth, the legend, put out an exhaustive piece on the history of Jurassic Park games. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm assuming you've seen Jurassic Park,
Oh, yes.
right? Now, did you see all the sequels and whatnot?
Unfortunately.
Now, I have to say, I shacked up with a chick back in the day who loved Jurassic Park, and so she loved two things: Jurassic Park and Beavis and Butthead. Those are her things.
Boy.
And she had one of those VCRs that would like play the tape, automatically rewind it, and play it again.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would hear Jurassic Park. I've listened to this movie literally hundreds of times, and I hate it. I hate the movie because it's not the movie's fault.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of Beavis and Butthead either, by the way, because I heard that a
Oh
million
my gosh,
times.
that would drive me insane.
But she loved it, man. She couldn't get enough. She would just play it over. And even when she wasn't home, she would just leave it running. You know? And so, but that much said, some of the games have been good. Some have been not that good. You know, I've played the Amiga version of Jurassic Park a few times. Another one we should probably have a look at, by the way. But man, this is an exhaustive look at the Jurassic Park stuff. He really goes into it. It's one of the best things he's done. I mean, everything he does is great, but this is like really, really
The Jurassic
super great.
Park games are interesting too because each one is so different from all the rest.
Yeah, man, that's something I didn't really know that either.
You know, like for example, this came out when I was really into the 16-bit era. You know, I had a Super Nintendo, and the Genesis version of Jurassic Park is a totally different game than the Super Nintendo.
And that's the one where you play the raptor, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I remember that was a big selling point on the commercials. You play the raptor.
Right,
you know?
right. So make sure you check this out. This is definitely worth a read.
Yeah, I read it. I read it right after it came. Well, actually, someone on one of the brain trusts was like, "Man, what a great article!" And I was like, "Well, I better go check this out." And boy, They weren't kidding. So.
And stay tuned for more Dreamcatcher related news. There might be something special coming out for the holidays related to Dreamcatcher and his work. So stay tuned.
One thing one thing I saw that I almost missed here, again from Folds. He's a machine. They're trying to. Did you see this thing here about Tales of Gorluth 2?
Yeah.
Have you looked into this one?
This is something that I think that I'm going to do an extended.
I knew I didn't have to say anything. I was like, this looks like a boat joint.
This is an action RPG that just looks fantastic. It's for sale. It's €4.90. I don't know what the division of euro currency is.
Like what is their
pence?
I don't think so.
It's not. But 4.9.
What is that?
Euros.
What is that in U.S. dough?
That's like, I think it's like $6. It's like $6. The euro and the thing are almost the same.
I asked if anyone had played the first one of this because this is Tales of Gorluth 2.
Right.
So I don't know if you need to play Tales of Gorluth 1.
Well, Indie Retro News claims that Tales of Gorluth 1 was the best Amiga RPG of 2014.
I saw that.
Yeah.
That's because how many Amiga RPGs were released in 2014?
Right. Makes you wonder.
But hey, and now I see you're looking at the webpage. Is the price there for Gorluth 1 or Gorluth 2?
This is.
Are they taking pre-orders for Gorluth 2 or?
Yeah, it looks like this is Gorluth 1. So maybe. Oh no, it's Gorluth 2. They didn't put 2 here in the thing, but yeah, it's 2. So I guess it's already out.
I see.
It's already out.
That seems reasonable.
Yeah.
This is a digital download.
Right. So that's cool.
I love it. Let's go over some of our site, some of the video we did this week, which we did some. Bo went crazy 8 bonkers this week with video. In terms of Amiga videos, we put up Double Dragon. We
What was that?
That was the Double Dragon theme. Yeah. I made it.
Okay.
Me and Bo went crazy a couple weeks ago and played all the Double Dragons. So this is the first, and we may end up doing a show on Double Dragon, but just because everyone loves Double Dragon.
Oh yeah.
Right? And so we went through them, and this was the first installment of the Double Dragon collection. And then Bo, you put up a bunch of like other stuff. Why don't you talk about the stuff you got together on this week?
Well, we did on the YouTube channel. I had a lot of time off this week. I had a whole week off, and so I made up for my lack of streaming. And I started a series where I'm going to attempt to play through the entire Star Tropics game on the NES. And I think part 1 has already been released, so you can check that out. There will be parts 2 and part 3 are going to be forthcoming in the next couple weeks. I also did a Thanksgiving Day stream where I played some Tecmo Super Bowl on the NES. I like streaming NES because I know I'll be able to not spend half my time fooling around with the controls and getting it to emulate right. Plus, I'm already really familiar with a lot of the games. So I put out a stream, did Snake, Rattle, and Roll, which is a game that Paul Harrington recommended on the stream. Have you ever played that, Snake, Rattle, and Roll?
No, not.
It's a neat mashup of Q*bert and Marble Madness. Yeah, and so I played that. And then I also did a Friday free-for-all, brought that back since we didn't record on Friday. And I just took some requests and played a bunch of stuff on MAME, including Double Dragon.
I'll tell you what you put up that I thought was interesting.
What's that?
Was the NES Wall Street Simulator.
Oh, yeah. Well,
the stock.
That's right. I forgot about that.
No, that was a stunner to me that existed.
Yeah.
That there was a Wall Street, and it was sort of, they had had actual corporations in it. Not, they were there, you can know what they were, but they were sort of, what I'm saying?
Right.
And I don't know how many people watched this. I don't know if it got a lot of play, but to me, that was the thing. I was like, man, this is crazy. It's called Wall Street Kid.
Yeah. And this is a game where you basically start out and you're in your office here, and you can read the paper to catch up on what's going on with news. You buy stocks and sell stocks. It works just like the market, except it's much easier than the market to make tons and tons of money. But the object of the game is where you start out and you inherit $500,000 from a rich uncle, but you have to invest it in the stock market, and you have to buy both a house get married, and buy your family's castle within a set amount of time. So you have to make money constantly. And it's actually really, you wouldn't think the stock simulator would be gripping, but towards the end of the video, I'm not sure if I'm going to make that $1 million to buy my house. And if you don't make it within a set amount of weeks, then you lose the game. It's game over. And so I'm not going to tell you whether I made it or not. You'll have to watch the video, but it's very gripping stuff.
Yeah, the plot behind it was pretty wacky.
Yeah, you have a girlfriend. She likes to go shopping. You buy her a dog.
She's very materialistic, and if you don't give her what you want, she's gone.
Yeah.
And if you don't make enough money to buy this castle, your wad is gone.
Right.
You're basically totally screwed.
Right.
So that was, I mean, what a weird thing. I wonder if the Amiga has any like Wall Street simulators.
You know, that's a good
We
question.
should look into that.
We'll have to check and see if there's.
Because that's something, you know, even the Coco had one, you know, which it's one of the board games, and in the old Coco had one, and so the Odyssey 2 had one, and the Coco had one. So surely the Amiga's got one. You know, did the Atari? You ever seen like that on the Atari 8-bit?
Oh, I'm sure on the computer, the computer lines just have so much software that almost everything is on there.
I wonder if it's. I mean, that's a pretty quality looking title.
Yeah,
I was surprised.
And it's a strange. It came from a strange developer. I think it might have been the only title they released on the NES. So it's a really unique thing. Duncan wrote in and he says we were talking about we couldn't figure out what that white 1200 CD thing was.
Yeah, what was that?
This is what
Duncan?
it is. He says that A1200 drive was a prototype for an A1200 add-on that would give the A1200 a CD drive as well as CD32 compatibility. It included the Akiko chip. It was called the CD1200.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Wow.
so thank you, Duncan.
Man, they need to crank that thing back up. That looked gorgeous.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
It's odd that it was totally white.
It didn't seem to match.
That's what I couldn't figure that out.
Maybe they were thinking of re-releasing the 1200 in a dazzling white case.
Man. You know, speaking of NES, getting back to that for a minute, I was, I've been sick all week, and so I sat around like a bum, and I guess I'm a vain bum, because one thing I'll do if I've got time or I can't sleep is I'll go back and watch some of our pre-shows, because it's a lot. This is going to sound stupid. It's almost like a video diary. You know, I'll go back and I'm like, oh, this week I'm mad because the circus was expensive. On this week I was mad because I got screwed over at the antique store. So anyway, so I'm watching an episode and we put out, and I was like, look what I got, Bo. And it was a box. And I was like, what is that? And I was like, look, I won this at an auction. It's a Nintendo box. And I was like, oh man, I forgot I won that. And I was like, wait a minute. I looked at it on my floor, and right in front of my bed, this box is sitting, right? I'm like, oh, there's that box. I was like, wait a minute. And I looked at all those Nintendo games I couldn't find were in the box.
Including your flash card?
Everything that was in there. So all the Nintendo games that I had.
The podcast has helped.
Actually, I'd forgotten that I bought them, and it was sitting in, I was literally, I watched the video, I looked up from bed, I looked across the room, I was like, there it sat.
Wow.
I was like, son of a gun. I'd forgotten what that
That's
was.
hilarious.
Yeah, so it's not that sad. It's sort of sad, really, is what it is. My memory's gone. It's over. So now I have to use the podcast as a living memory device to keep myself informed.
When you're in the old age home and people want you to recall something, they'll say, please refer to this YouTube video.
For the next pre-show we do, I'm just going to list off my grocery list, or my monthly bills, and that way I can go back and be like, okay, here we go.
Now, speaking of going back, I also took it upon myself this week to start a project that will probably last me until the end of time.
Yes.
I am going back and remastering all 43 of the audio-only Amigos podcasts.
Craziness.
So this
madness.
Starting with episode 0, I'm going back and fixing the audio, because the audio on some of the early episodes is terrible. The balance is all out of whack. And not only that, I'm also adding some animation and some gameplay footage. So whenever we talk about a game, so for example, if we, let me pull one of these up. This is episode 1, Hybris, from way back. Switch it over here.
That's why you put the intro in there.
Yeah, I put the intro in. And during the parts where we're talking, I have some of these animated sprites moving around just to give it some action. And then once we get into the game,
great.
Actually, this is where we talk about the Amiga 1000. We spend a lot of time talking about the Amiga 1000 on episode 1. So I play some promo footage of the Amiga 1000, and then when we get to the Hybris talk, I actually have Hybris playing, in the background while we're talking about it. So
Sweet.
if you've missed some of the early shows, if you haven't listened to them yet, this is the time to get on board because the audio is much improved, and adding some visual elements makes it fun to watch on YouTube.
That's a real good idea. Let me ask you, in terms of the improved audio, are you gonna release these as on the stream?
So as I do these videos, I'm also stripping the audio out and updating the RSS feed. So if you go back now and listen to the audio only versions of the podcast through your podcatcher app, they will also have upgraded audio.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Wow, very clever, Boat.
Yeah.
You bit off a lot there, buddy.
So yeah, that's what happens when I go on vacation. I think at these crazy
we need
projects.
you to lose your job, dude.
All right, Aaron. I think that concludes both the news and the site updates this week.
Yeah, I think we're ready to move along, man.
So let's talk theme park.
All right, let me get the Gambletron out here. So, theme park. Now, this was a suggestion made by me because I knew you were really into it. And I will say that I will preface this by saying that I was god-awful at this game. My theme parks were garbage. So, that out of the way. Theme Park, a game that was released in '94. Four discs, Boat.
4 discs.
4 discs, if you got the disc version. This was developed by Bullfrog. Bullfrog did some stuff on the Amiga that we've talked about even. They did a game called Druid 2. I'm sure the Druid series is something. I've never heard of the Druid. I mean, we've talked about it before. Flood. Of course, then they did Populous 1 and 2, the big dogs. Power Monger, which I actually own that. Psycho Santa, and they did Syndicate. Of course, you were a big fan of Syndicate. And also, I want to go on record that your description of Syndicate during our 100th episode is one of the finest points in the history of this game. We have to release at least that part because watching you try to go through that was one of the all-time great moments.
I don't
oh man, you need to go back and watch it. I watched it the other night. So this was sort of the baby of Peter Molyneux. Pete Molyneux. This was his baby. Now he didn't. Excuse me. He didn't do the Amiga version, but this was sort of like overall was his baby. I think the original version. This was a PC version. This had a huge staff of people on it. I'm not going to go through them all, but you can imagine this isn't the kind of game that one dude just sits right and does the whole thing. I mean, Bullfrog had a big time staff. These guys weren't screwing around, and they went on to do some really awesome stuff. I think they did Magic Carp. It was one of the. I remember wanting that game really bad. In fact, my buddy Jerry, he got rid of his Amiga because of that game. He wanted a PC to play it.
Wow.
Bullfrog eventually got bought, and then they went away. That was dumb. I think it was EA that picked them up.
Yeah.
That was into them. They were gone. So this game came out in basically 3 different flavors on the Amiga. You had your AGA version, which I believe was the first one released. Then you had the like a ECS 500, Amiga 500 version, and then you had a CD32 version.
Now, were they all released simultaneously?
No, I believe the 500 version was released a few months after the AGA version, I think. And then you have it, like I said, there's a CD32 version. This is one of the rare games of this type that was like on all the consoles. You wouldn't think of this, like when I think of SimCity was like that too, right? You don't think of consoles as being sim game heavy, I guess is what I'm saying, but they had a pretty good interface, and they use your joystick. And
well, it also helps that mouse control is not even required for this on the computers.
Right.
You can use the cursor.
Now this was ported to a lot of stuff, and some of these we should try. 3DO got a port. Did you know that?
No.
Apparently it's quite nice. The classic Mac got a port. All right.
I didn't know that either.
The Jag got ported. Like I said, I've tried to get hold of that cart, but it's not. I think it's going for about $22 on the Jag. The cart. The Nintendo DS got a port. The Super Nintendo, of course, the PC and the Genesis got one, and there was also a Genesis a Sega CD version. The Saturn got a port. The PlayStation's got a port. The PSP even got a port of this. So it was well traveled, and there's a reason for that. It was a big seller. It was a very popular game. And at the time, this was like a sort of novel concept, the whole build your own theme park thing. Now, later on, the Tycoon series would get to it.
Lots more people got on board.
Yeah, Roller Coaster Tycoon is probably the title that most people would think of when you think of like making your own theme park now. But I mean, I remember when this came out, and it was just like, wow, that's an interesting concept. It was really unusual. Like I said, this was converted over from the PC. Now, if you look at the PC version of this versus the Amiga version, the PC version is, even against the AGA, is better looking. The colors are dithered and whatnot. But the AGA version, it looks okay.
Right.
It's not like, I don't think it's the best thing I ever saw, but it looks okay.
Yeah, and if you're watching the YouTube, or if you're watching the YouTube version of this show, if you're watching on video right now, you're watching the OCS ECS version, which is looks much. The big difference between the two versions, the AGA and the OCS ECS, is the animations, the sound, and the graphics. So pretty much everything about it. The stores they look nowhere near as good as they do on the other versions, and there's no in-game sound, or what in-game sound there is cannot be compared to the AGA or the PC version.
Now, you've played this on a few formats.
Yes.
Yeah. What have you played it on?
So I played this back in the day on PC, and I played the AGA version and the OCS ECS version.
You tried them
All
both
of them.
out, eh? Okay, good. Now, according to what I found, this series sold over 15 million copies.
Wow.
Pretty good, not on the Amiga, just overall. That's a pretty good chunk, though. 15 million copies. And apparently, from what I was able to read, I couldn't get an exact number, but apparently it was a good seller on the Amiga. So, and this was 94, so they released it at the right time,
Yeah.
right? To it. Oh, there was an iOS port, too. In case
okay.
I know you have that stuff, so there you go. So, why don't you describe the general premise of this game? But, I mean, you're basically making a theme park. Why?
Okay. So you are given a bunch of money at the beginning of the game, and you choose a site to build on. I think there's only one site you can build on from
the UK
in the
site,
UK.
right?
Yeah.
I wonder why their site's free.
Well,
It's like
Duncan,
building a swamp.
Duncan Styles points out that the UK version of this game was sponsored by Midland Bank.
Right. Yeah,
So-
that's a tie-in with the bank, which that is a bizarre.
It is. It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you pick your plot of land, and you're basically given this large fenced-in area on which to build. As far as sim games go, I think this is one of the easiest sim games to get into. You might disagree.
Okay.
But basically, you lay down a path, a concrete path for your people to walk on. Then you place rides. You have to make a queue, a line, like a roped off line that you get your patrons will walk through to get to the ride. So that's one thing you can place. You can also place shops, and the shops sell balloons, or the shops sell food or desserts or different things. Okay, so at its most basic level, you open the park, people come in, they go on your rides, they eat your food, and they're either happy with the experience or they're unhappy with the experience. You also can place mascots in your park. You can place repairmen, which you'll need because the rides break down. You place custodians that pick up the garbage, and you also place security officers to keep the peace. So all of these things are in your park, and they're all costing you money, which hopefully will be offset by the money your patrons pay to either eat food or ride rides or whatever. Now, if you play at what's called the sandbox level, that's all you need to worry about. However, the game gets much more complicated when you move on to the higher levels of difficulty. The full and the sim, I think, are the two highest difficulty levels. And in those, you have to manage, not only do you have to manage your rides to keep them moving, but you have to manage contract negotiations between your staff and your management. You have to keep stock in in all of your stores. So if you run out of food, you're out of luck. And you have to invest in stock in the other theme parks in the world. So there is a lot going on in the higher levels of difficulty. Now, to me, this is a good thing because you can play around in the sandbox mode, have all kinds of fun, hopefully make money, and just have a good time without having to worry about the other stuff. Once you get a handle on how your park is supposed to be run and you get a good model down, then you can start to tiptoe into the higher levels of difficulty, which add longevity to the game. There are a couple things that I think could have been done better. One, when you run out of stock in your stores, it literally takes like a year or more of in-game time for new stock to arrive, which is
voting it over.
Yeah, which is like not realistic at all. And I don't understand why that is.
Was it like that in all the versions?
I don't know because I played mostly this version. It might be different in the other versions. I can't remember from playing
from your old days.
Yeah, I can't remember it. I think that I always played it on the easiest difficulty back in the day, and you didn't have to worry about that. But other than that, I think that the simulation part of it is pretty accurate. However, well, I'll talk about the things that I like first. The things that I like are the graphics. The graphics are colorful. Even in the stripped down OCS, ECS version, it's still a very colorful game. The rides look nice. The theme park looks inviting. I think that the menus are entirely laid out without text, so you have to kind of click on things to see what they are. But I mean, that's just what it is. I like all of the animations of your people as they're walking around. You know, they look like they've got personality. Your mechanics as they sit there and eat their lunch on their little pad there. It looks cool. Graphically, this game has always impressed me. I think that the simulation part of it, watching people queue up and go through the lines, watching things break down, it's got neat animations. I think where the game breaks down for me is that it's difficult for me to see exactly what I need to do to make my park better all the time. You have a general sense of how people are feeling when you click on one of the icons. You get this like thousands of people walk onto the screen and you can see who's happy and who's not happy and why. But I almost would rather not have that graphically represented, or at least have an option to just turn that off and just see a simple graph like in SimCity where it says like this percentage of the people are not happy and this is why. That would give me a better idea of how to make things better. Also, the tutorial in this game does a good job of teaching you how to set up your park for the first time. But once you get into the simulation, you really aren't given a lot of guidance on how to really expand your park in the best way possible.
That's what I wanted to touch on right away. Why you mentioned it? Like I learned how to make paths. I learned how to put down, shops and rides and whatnot. Because I'm not like you. I'm not coming from having played this before. And then basically you're on your own. And I was just like, I was befuddled. And of course, I was afraid I would not get the full experience, so I played on full simulation. I put it on easy, but there were so many menus. The fact that I know they did this because of the language issue with it's just like lemmings at the bottom of the screen you get through. But I wasn't sure what everything did at first. I wasn't sure how to get to certain menus. It was tough. There's a pull down menu that you hit from the top. Like I couldn't figure out it took me a while to figure out how to open the park. And I was like, how do you get this thing open? And of course, it's on the pull-down menu. Well, that thing's hard to bring up, too.
Having menus in two different places is a major defect of this game. If they should have either put everything in the pull-down menu or everything in the bottom menu, or made the pull-down menu not a pull-down menu, just make it at the top at all times, like SimCity.
Because that menu, I had trouble even getting it to come down sometimes. This is one of those games. It's funny, you're the experienced player, and I'm the newbie in this particular case, so there's a good compare and contrast there. For me, I thought, again, I agree with most of what you said, but it's starting out. I even looked through the instructions for this thing too to try to get a decent idea of what I was doing. But it is not the easiest thing to jump into, and these games are not necessarily my bag. But you're talking about, I was watching your video where you made the lines for the guys to queue around. When I was playing, I didn't do that. I just put a path to my ride. And, that stuff makes a difference. when the guys come into your park and they're like, they're often thinking like, I want a hamburger, right? Well, I didn't have the ability to build something with a hamburger. I didn't know about it took me a while to figure out how to upgrade.
Right,
You know?
and that's another thing too. One thing that the game doesn't tell you, or at least it doesn't do a very good job of telling you, is unless you're playing on the easiest difficulty level, you will not get any upgrades. You actually have to fund the upgrades through a research system. If you're playing on the easiest difficulty level, every year you'll get new stuff.
Right.
And the research system, I thought, was very difficult to, I mean, again, it was done in a very graphical way where you're filling up vials with certain amounts of liquid and that reflects how much you're investing. But I would rather just have a text screen or at least an option that says, listen, I want to put 25% into this, 25% into this, and so on.
And some of the research stuff, I mean, what do we get to research some pretty pedestrian stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like why can't I have a place that makes hamburgers?
Yeah, I would much rather have it set up like SimCity where everything is available, everything has a price, you buy what you want.
Now there are cheats, and I found out. And then there's the sound. Did you try the sandbox mode? You know.
That's the easiest difficulty.
I didn't try that one, but I was now after I read about it, I was like, crap, I should have done that.
Yeah, if you were not playing on the sandbox mode, then I understand why you were not having a good time with this game.
It was. Now, I do enjoy the capering of the little guys that run around. I like the fact that feels like something that's living and vibrant. You know, it makes it interesting, and I like the fact that you could eventually, and I never got the really awesome rides. I don't know how many rides there is. I'm assuming quite a few.
Yeah.
But it was neat to be able to sort of, after the first couple goes where I just made a mess, I could sort of do something that looked sort of like something that might be fun to go to.
Right.
You know.
Now, a cool thing about the PC version of this game, I don't know if it was in the AGA version or not, but you could actually ride the rides. They would you could click on a ride and it would take you into this first-person perspective of the ride, and you could ride. Back in the day, that was cool. Now with Roller Coaster Tycoon, it's so much better. But
I'm pretty sure that's in here. I mean, I didn't do it, but I thought you could. I wasn't sure how to do it.
It's definitely not in the OCS ECS version, but it might be in the AGA version. The AGA version also has a horribly pixelated intro.
The intro, I was going to touch on that. Is there's I guess like a Willy Wonka sort of character that comes out of your TV and says like, "Hey, come on." And it's very odd. You know, you fly in on these airplanes, but then they become part of this ride.
Right.
And I think that's not what they were going for. But I thought, man, this thing's really screwed up. It looks horrible. So I went out to the actual 1200 and tried it, and it was exactly the same. I'm like, wow, that's god awful.
Again, they were trying to take something from a PC architecture that by this time was much more advanced and cram it into the AGA architecture.
Yeah, this has a lot in common with Syndicate in that department. Something else that happened to me, I don't know if it happened to you, I found this game to be buggy. I would get to a certain point, and a couple of times when I played this, and my park, I don't know if it was something I was doing, but it would slow to a crawl. I mean, it was real slow. And I tried it on the Amiga Forever and on the actual Amiga, and I had to have it on both. In fact, on Amiga Forever, to get to a point where it was really slow. It was unplayably slow. And I was like, what am I doing wrong here? And I thought, I'm going to try on the real machine. I did, and it slowed down as well. It wasn't as bad. I don't know what the heck's up with that. And I got to reading that apparently there's a lot of bugs in it. So did you have any?
I didn't have any slowdown. I wonder if it has to do with the fact that you didn't put any cues on any of your rides.
I don't know.
And maybe just like your paths were so overloaded. I didn't have any slowdown.
I would
issues.
also occasionally have it come up and tell me that I'd lost a character somewhere because my pathing was bad, and you have to go hunting around to try to figure out where this sucker's gone.
Yeah, I think that because I just came into this again with having some previous knowledge, I didn't run into so many of the things.
Yeah,
but
it's an interesting concept to where I mean, you're in the game to make money, and you're in the game, so it's not necessarily like a vanity project. You're there to make money. And it gives you the choice of sort of just having some fun or playing the simulator. And it is deep. I mean, it's crazy deep.
Yeah.
I thought, you know.
But again, you know, it's deep. But in the sections where it is deep, it's not exact enough. Like when you're negotiating with your workers, Hey, did you do that at all?
No.
Okay. So the way that it works is you sit in this room and you've got these two hands, and you've got your workers' hands and management hands, and you bring your hand forward a little bit and they bring their hand forward a little bit until you meet somewhere in the middle. But there's no indication of exactly how you're supposed to play that. And there's no way that you can say, listen, I don't want to go any farther than this percent. You're just literally dragging your hand across. So it's a weird sort of dichotomy where they want to make this deep simulator, but they don't want to include the tools that would allow you, if you wanted to go deep, to really succeed at it.
It was, I will say, having no experience with it, when I loaded it up the first time and started flipping through all the various options, I was surprised at the depth. I mean, I know you usually think it's pretty light. I don't play these games that often. To me, I was just like, holy moly, there's just so much going on. I mean, it was overwhelming. That much said, I thought it was an interesting game. And overall, I had it's not one I'd go back to. I'm not gonna lie, because it's not my bag. But the thought of making your own theme park, I watch these shows on YouTube about these theme parks that have came and gone over the years, and who bought them and what happened to them. And there is a lot of crazy financial stuff that happens, and these guys are buying out each other's parks, and they change ownership. So it's sort of intriguing to me, the concept of it.
Yeah.
I thought that was, to me that hit home with me, because it's realistic.
Right.
So that was kind of cool, and so it's neat that they threw that in. I don't know if did they do that in Railroad Tycoon, or I mean not Railroad, but Roller Coaster Tycoon.
I don't know. I've never played any of those games.
So you stopped at this and you were done. So that's funny. By the way, this is
this is the contract negotiations.
Yeah, they're showing it right now on the thing. But overall, I don't feel like I'm qualified to even make too much of a comment on it. But having played the other versions, how do you think this was stacked up?
So, from a sim level, this is pretty much the game. It's not comparably different from a gameplay perspective than the other versions. Where the other versions really shine is, like I said, the quality, the colors are so much better, the animations are better, and the sound is better. So it just altogether, from an audiovisual standpoint, those are the versions that you want to play. There's really no, unless you're just an OCS, ECS, fanboy, there's no reason to play this version over any of the other versions. The AGA version, there's no WHD load version of it, so at least not one I could find.
I had it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I only had the non version, or maybe I couldn't get it to work. I can't remember, but I did try the AGA version on disc, and it was so slow to load; it just took forever. So, but anyway. Definitely play this either AGA if you can, or the PC version.
Now, I will say this, just a few items here. I was looking into the CD32 version of this, and for what I read, on the CD32 version, you can only save your money. You can't save your park. So that's definitely something you want to consider. And I think the Jag had a very similar situation. Basically, once you turn it off, game over. I'm not sure you could save the money even on the Jag. I don't know if you could or not. Again, I also read that it was a pretty buggy game. So I looked at the reviews on this thing. It reviewed great. It's probably I would say of all the games we've ever done, this is the one that got the best reviews. According to what I'm looking at here, it got nothing. It got one review under 90, and that was an 88. It was 92s and 93s on everything, that's impressive if you think about it. I mean, we've done a lot of games. So, I mean, it was well received. It was very, very popular. In terms of eBay on this one, there were a ton of these available. I was surprised, actually. And there were a lot in the U.S. Like right now, you can get an AGA version, $25. You can get there was a bunch of CD32 versions that were going anywhere from 70 up, and there were people trying to finagle for big money. In UK, these things are cheap, $10, $15, no problem there. The big box versions go for a lot more for the CD32. But I mean, if you wanted to buy this, you could get it pretty cheap. And it was, like I said, it was widely available. So clearly this sold well. And for the fact that there were US copies, a lot. I mean, by a lot, I mean like more than 2. That's one of the few times that's happened too. We don't hardly get anything over here for that. So clearly it was something they marketed over here and it sold.
Awesome.
So.
Well, Aaron, let's go ahead and put the I don't know what analogy.
Put the theme park to bed.
Put the theme park to bed. Close down the lights.
Turn down the lights.
And
It was an interesting game, though.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's not my usual fare. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
It's time to thank the Patreon supporters, Aaron. We've got a raft of new Patreon supporters this week.
A raft.
Yeah, you've never heard that expression? No. Yeah, that might not be a real expression. And but anyway, it's time to thank them in a very special way.
Oh God.
So
I see the key. Yeah, here we go.
yeah. So
It's awful early, but
it's never too early to thank the Patreon supporters. Ricky the Russia, creepy dead boy, Piggy CTZ, the slow Norris, Steven Sogard, Mortensen, Edvin, Helen, Blendo 75, John Marshall, Christopher Hassel, Ravi Abbott, Chris Foles, Dreamcatcher, and Lauren Giroux, Grant W. Webke, Britt Dowdy, Lane Denson, O'Brien's Retro Vintage, Gary Hucko, C. Brian Jones, Paul Harrington, Duncan Styles, Alan Kimball, Anthony Jarvis, James Stummer, Chris, Josh Lang, Will Williams, Adam Bradley, Neil Mansell, Jonas Rulo, THG, Eric Nelson, Kim, Tommy Hubbard, Stan, Daniel Bankston, Bruno Barracuda, Darren Coles, Jason Warnes, Pixels and John Copion Barman.
Nice.
Thank you.
I love that song. By the way, if it gets any larger, you're going to start doing like some real lyrically heavy, like Bob Dylan.
I know.
You know?
I'll have to do leopard skin pillbox hat.
Something crazy, or Anna got a DeVita. You have to have the words to it.
Well, if you would like your name to be added to that
who
illustrious
wouldn't?
list, think about supporting us over at patreon.com/Amigos podcast. And Aaron, we got a big, it's going to be an Amigos December to Remember.
It is
This month.
Oh yeah. Aren't they all?
So we've got a lot of great games coming up, and it's all going to culminate on our Christmas show, which is going to be on December. Ooh, wait a minute, that's not right. It's going to be on December 22nd.
All right,
December
man.
22nd.
That sounds good.
We're going to have an all-star cast. John Marshall will be here.
Big John.
Yep.
All right.
And
man.
hopefully your brother will be here.
Well, you know.
Maybe we can even rope Wilcox in.
Brent's more unlike. We have more luck. We have a Santa Claus coming up than Brent. I'm starting to wonder if he still exists.
Maybe so, maybe not. But anyway, Patreon supporters, be on the lookout. I'm going to be sending out special Amigos Christmas gifts. So make sure you keep checking your email for instructions on that. And everybody else, thank you so much for listening. We do have some questions in the chat here. Let's see, Super Scooby-Doo asks, I see a lot of awesome games back there, but no PC Engine Turbo Graphics games.
Well, that's on boat. I've got awesome turbo graphics games back at the pad. That's not true. I've got about 5. But I do have Bonk, the big one. I've got a few others. But yeah, the turbo graphics is great. Love the turbo graphics. So yeah, boat just doesn't have one.
Yeah, maybe you can bring one over just so we can display it here on the shelf.
Yeah, I just put the box up there. I don't know if I have any boxes. I just got the hoop cards.
And Duncan says, if you do turkey for Thanksgiving, do you go for something else at Christmas? Turkey is traditional in the UK at Christmas.
That's funny. That someone in the Brain Trust asked that too. When I was reading, in this country, tradition be damned. We have turkey and ham pretty much at either one.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they're interchangeable.
Yeah.
And turkey, I would say that Thanksgiving does lean more turkey than anything else.
Yeah.
But at Christmas time, anything goes.
Yeah, but really, often you're sick of turkey by Christmas,
right?
And you don't have it, but we still have it sometimes. It depends on the person's mood. Hey, if my mom wants to fix turkey, ham, Spam, whatever she's having, buddy, I'm there.
You're in.
I don't care.
You're in. So if you have any questions you'd like us to answer on the podcast, feel free to write in at amigospodcast.com. We'd be glad to answer them. We'd like to thank everybody that's hung out in the Twitch chat with us.
Early.
Not early for them, though.
It's early for us. It's still earlier.
It's earlier, yeah. We'd like to thank Creepy Dead Boy, Duncan Styles, Super Scooby-Doo, let's see, Urushil.
Man,
yeah.
you're going to butcher his name again, but he's going to get on you.
Ed Van Helen, thank you. So thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us in the chat today. Like I said, and Paul Harrington just showed up. So, hey, Paul. And so we record live every week at twitch.tv/Amigos podcast. So please follow us on Twitch so you can watch live, participate in the chat, and just have a good time.
Hopefully we'll be back to our normal Friday schedule.
Yeah, I think we should be. Actually, we won't be. This Friday, I can't record on Friday.
Are you kidding me?
We already talked about this. We're going to do it on Thursday.
Okay.
So
I don't remember nothing, but I've been sick.
Yeah, this Thursday we're going to record at our normal time, which will be as soon as Aaron gets here after work, sometime around 5 Eastern. But then after that, we should be back on Fridays all the way out to at least Christmas. Aaron, we haven't talked about what game we want to play next week.
Mystery game. I've got a few ideas, but we'll just mystery game. Since
Okay.
we only got 4 days.
That's true.
So we're going to have to get something good and easy in there. I've got a couple cunning plans.
That sounds great. All right, guys. Well, we will see you then. Until next time,
Adios.
adios.